we wanted to do a deep dive into the most ridiculous thing, the moral equivalence that is occurring of Hamas, a terrorist genocidal group, with Israel.
The Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and violations of international humanitarian and human rights law.
In the Arab world, extremism, terrorism, not only it's subsidized, like it's incentivized. They threw a grenade into my house a long time ago.
Oh my God.
I've been shot at, I've been stabbed. It's like I'm either gonna end up in prison one day, dead, or I can just cancel everything that I am and start over.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Quad. With me in the studio, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist, and our guest co-host for the month of June, maybe even July, Chama Mechtoly, also a human rights activist, also part of the Atlantic Council, half Muslim, half Jewish, 100% Zionist. I love that, Chama. And welcome back. If you love our show, please like and subscribe to JNS TV. So, ladies, this week we wanted to do a deep dive into the most ridiculous thing, but it's a very serious thing, that has been happening and creeping up over the last 8 months since the beginning of the war. Something that is something we could never have imagined would have happened at the beginning of the war, and that is the moral equivalence that is occurring in the, I guess, consciousness in the world of Hamas, a terrorist genocidal group, with Israel, a democratic country with law and order. And I think this is part of a very well-planned campaign that has been building up over decades, of course. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It's very deliberate. We're not even in the game. And Emily and I could talk about that for about 3 hours, how we've dropped the ball on this. Yeah. But ladies, here we are. Moral equivalence, and we've seen it in many expressions, and I want to go into it with both of you on different fronts. We have a UN resolution of the protection of the child saying that Israel and Hamas are equally culpable of what's going on in this war, even though, of course, Hamas, we know, beheaded, raped, killed children at the beginning of the war, and Israel, of course, is silly, merely defending themselves with human casualties like you'd seen any war, even less than you'd seen any war. And with you, Chama, I want to get into that moral equivalence that is also that we see in the Arab world, where I see in the Arab world more, it's like Hamas Bibi. You know, they've taken and they've villainized Bibi rather than Israel, so that they don't get into trouble.
And those are the less extreme people.
And those are the less extreme people.
Like the moderate, progressive voices out of the Middle East and North Africa.
So let's start, with a recurring scumbag, the UN.
Ah, yes. We haven't even gotten to the scumbags yet.
No,
we're already
they
talking
are
about
recurring.
scumbags.
Emily, tell us a little bit about what happened in the UN in the last week in terms of their resolutions.
Yeah, there have been a few things. Like every time Israel comes up, there's some condemnation, and it doesn't matter. It could be the World Health Organization, it could be the Women's Committee, it could be pretty much anything. Anytime Israel comes up, they're like, ooh, opportunity to bash Israel.
Yes.
But the most recent thing is, of course, the Commission of Inquiry, the 126 pages of comparing Israel to what Hamas did as if they are even close to the same thing. And I think, well, there's a lot of things wrong with this report, but some of the things that really stuck out to me were that they were accusing Israel of extermination. That was the word they used, extermination of Palestinians, which is really crazy because, like, Israel has the ability to do such a thing. They have the ability to commit a genocide. Nobody wants that. Not the army, not even the government, which I despise, and not the people, of course. And that's not what we're seeing either. And if you did see that attempt, you would see much higher civilian casualties. It would be much, much higher.
Is extermination a euphemism for them for genocide, but they don't want to say genocide for some reason?
No, they also say genocide.
Oh, they say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But extermination, it's a very strong word. I mean, for me, what do I think of when I think of extermination of a people? The Holocaust.
Of course,
and that's exactly what they're doing. You said that it's deliberate, and you're exactly right. Everything that the UN is doing in terms of framing this debate in an incorrect way, intentionally, is that,
And
it's almost like they don't want a resolution.
Yeah, what do you mean they live for this? And we have
The craziest part, sorry, I got excited.
Yeah.
The craziest part about this report that I wanted to get to before I forget is that they also accused the IDF of sexual violence.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the part that really, really set me off, because in this report itself, they're talking about how, well, Hamas may have committed some sexual violence, but we couldn't independently confirm evidence of rape. But the part that's the craziest about this is that they said the IDF is committing sexual violence, just like Hamas did, which is crazy. And their example of this is that we strip searched terrorists to ensure that they weren't wearing suicide vests when they were arrested. Not people on the street, not people in their homes, people who were under arrest in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, to compare that to gang rape, to
gang rape, mutilation of women's bodies.
Of children. This is absolute insanity. I mean, it shouldn't even be in the same conversation. And yet we continue to see the UN and others, but the UN, I'll let you talk about that, shove this issue as if they're on the same footing. And it's ridiculous and it's insulting to every single victim of sexual violence everywhere in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I see in the Arab world, and you can correct me because you're much more of an expert than me, in terms of what I see, even from people that you and I know from the Gulf countries, is
beyond,
is this thing where they've taken all that hatred and put it on Bibi. Like there's this one guy and he's responsible for the fact that Israel is defending itself.
Yeah, so I think there's a really interesting dynamic that's showing up where amongst the people that we know and that we've had relationships, very good, productive Abraham Accords relationships with, there's this pattern of throwing everything under Bibi or Bibi, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir in order to almost kind of excuse the fact that they were Zionists and that they've had relationships with Israel.
Well, they had Jewish friends.
And so therefore, they're kind of absolving themselves of responsibility and saying it's all Bibi without actually taking the time to understand Israeli politics, Israeli government, how it works, Israeli society. And I think there is another thing that happens where, because the West, specifically the democratic and sort of leftist corners of the West, pick up the same moral equivalency and rhetoric, then that speech is picked up by the progressive of the Middle East, even like the moderate, progressive, secular voices who should, in theory, understand Israel much more. It's picked up by them to say, look, we don't have a problem with Jews.
Or Israel.
It's really just the racist, extremist Israeli government. But there's another layer to this too, which is that for decades, Zionism was seen as racism. It was institutionalized, like we spoke about last
declared by the UN.
Yes.
Absolutely, 1975 by the UN.
Right.
And so for decades, you've had generations that grew up only seeing Zionism and the Jewish right to self-determination as a manifestation of racism.
Which is really incredible, because we've had so many good friends here on the program who call themselves Arab Zionists. And I just now understood how revolutionary it is for them to say that, how brave,
How difficult
it is for them to say that. When you said it for the first time, what happened?
Woo!
Is that another episode?
Wow. That is definitely another episode, and I'm going to need a therapist with me.
No, I think we should do an episode which is just group therapy of Arab Zionists who tell us about their stories.
I'll be very honest. It took me a very long time to actually be comfortable with saying I'm a Zionist. I've always been a Zionist. I've always worked on Jewish inclusion in the Middle East and North Africa, always worked towards Israeli integration in the Middle East, but I was kind of toning down my language. And part of that was to allow myself to work within these interfaith spaces so that people can see what Zionism actually is. Mm-hmm. But after October 7th, I couldn't do that anymore. And I can't begin to tell you how many friends and family members I have, lost relationships with over this war, over October 7th, this sense, I coined this term, which is kind of like the reverse of BDS. It's DBS, which is this deep betrayal syndrome that I felt since October 7th. And there is nothing more painful than I've felt in my life. It's pain that lights up all over your...
Betrayal from who?
Betrayal from all of your communities. In my case, it's all the progressive communities in the West and sort of the seculars and the atheists and the moderates in the Middle East.
The people that you thought stood for your values.
Absolutely. And at least so some parts, some element of my identity. But it also comes from, family members and from friends whom you think they understood some things. Like a friend of mine who used to be a best friend, I would have literally given a kidney to this person. She, after October 7th, said, "I can't believe you're a Zionist. How dare you say this?" And she wrote this defamation piece on my Facebook timeline to say, I feel sorry for your soul. Rest in peace, because we don't recognize you anymore.
I've just told you on the phone.
For being an evil
What's up with
Zionist.
millennials? You have to write on somebody's feet.
Well, I
This
think
is your friend.
I think that's part of the disease in a way. The pathology is that it's so difficult for them to see Zionism for what it is, that they must go into public platforms.
I was actually just going to talk about Einat Wilf, because that really is very, very smart insight that she's had, which is basically that the word has become dirty, right?
Yep.
The word has become dirty, and Zionism, and even if you speak to people like Frank Luntz, who are big wordsmiths, they will say, don't use the word Zionism. But what Einat says, which is 100% correct, is the minute you lose the word, you lose the battle of that idea. It's the same with feminism. And who is interested in the backlash of feminism? Chauvinists, misogynists. Who is interested in the backlash of Zionists? Anti-Jewish, anti-Israel haters. And so we are Zionists, and we are proud, and we have a lot of brave people that are standing with us. And on that happy note, we move on to our special guest that we have in the studio today. And today we have a very special guest on our show. Timor-David was born Osaid Horace or Tamil. How did he make the journey from that to Timor-David? Timor, welcome to the quad.
Thank you.
So wonderful having you here. Timor, you were born in Jaffa.
Correct.
Son of Palestinian family.
Correct.
And today you seem like a religious Jew.
Seem.
Please just share with us that journey, because I just find it fascinating, especially for a Palestinian. I think that we see many Arab Zionists, we see, some Muslims around the world who become Jewish or who really love Judaism. But you are Palestinian originally, or whatever that means, whatever that identity means to you.
Right.
Tell us how that happened.
Well, the identity itself did not mean too much to us. We were Muslims more than anything. Right? I think when I was 17, 18, I had to confront a lot of difficult questions that people put up in front of me when it came to Islam, very violent stuff that I had a hard time explaining. So the more research I had done at the time, the more I realized it's not real. It felt fake. Too many loopholes, too many mistakes, too many errors. Mary, mother of Jesus, sister of Aharon and Moses. That's in the Quran. Haman was in Persia. He's in Egypt in the Quran. So there was a lot of discrepancies, a lot of just issues that didn't sit well with me. And then I was just obsessed with learning who Muhammad was. So I read the biography of Ibn Ishaq. I went to the Jewish Quarterly, and they have amazing documents, articles you can find, where it's Muhammad and the rabbis, dialogues and conversations. And I was just obsessed with it for years, while also researching Judaism, because as a kid, my mother bought me these tapes, DVR tapes, and it's called Giborei Tanakh HaGdolim, which basically means the heroes of the Bible. Exactly. So as a kid, I really loved Joseph. I loved Daniel. I loved Abraham. I loved their stories. It's animation. It's cartoon. But it's an hour-long story. So I always had this thing with Judaism, I guess, because I also watched TV as a kid. There was like Arutz Eladim and all these Israeli TV channels, programs. Whenever there's a holiday, they make special shows and, you know, things leading up to the holiday. So I felt like I knew everything. I knew the holiday, I knew the people, I knew the tradition, I knew the culture, I knew my people. I wasn't happy with my people.
Did you have Jewish friends?
No, never.
You went to a school in Jaffa?
I went to several schools. The first school was a Palestinian school. It was called St. Michael's Greek Orthodox School. Even though it was a Christian one, it was very, very Palestinian. Like in the morning, we had to sing the national anthem every morning in Jaffa.
Is Israel Jaffa?
This is in Jaffa, yeah. So we had to say Mautini, Mautini every morning.
Wow.
And then after that, we had like a Nakba lesson every week. We had weekly projects where we had to draw and paint Palestinian things like an olive tree and oranges.
Just like in Brooklyn today.
And soap factory. Yeah, just like today. So, yeah, I was exposed to all of these things. And I guess when I was 17, 18, I kind of became agnostic. I couldn't really be an atheist. I had too many crazy things happen to me throughout my life. Times where I was supposed to die, didn't die. Crazy things where, you know, I just felt like I had my own beautiful experience where I've been touched by God. I just don't know who God is. And I don't really believe in any of these books. So at the time, I was just like, I'm agnostic. I'm not saying there's no God. I'm just saying God didn't speak to me yet.
Yeah. Yes, okay. He hasn't revealed himself yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a very Jewish thing to say, I don't know the full truth. I will keep questioning God's existence.
Exactly.
And then many years later, when I didn't even convert at the time, but I was like just, I guess, flirting with Judaism. Every morning I would go to Shacharit.
Oh my God.
Every morning. And I loved it because there were no people in the synagogue. Mm-hmm. Usually just very few. And Shacharit is 4:45 in the morning.
It's only insomniac Sephardi men.
Something like that.
Yes.
Which you fit in, I guess.
So I did that for a long time. I never really planned to convert through the rabbinate. I never wanted to do the official process. I did it, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was always just to learn, to research, to look into things, just know how to practice.
Did your family understand what you were doing?
I never really shared anything with anyone. I did joke about it once. I said one day they're going to call me David. Don't freak out. Wow. It was like a joke, kind of. They laughed.
It wasn't a joke to you, but they took it as a joke.
It was during Ramadan. It was actually when we were breaking fast. I was like, one day they're going to call me David, don't freak out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they laughed. After a while, they stopped laughing. And eventually there was a meeting, a special meeting I had between me, my mother, and my uncle, one of the oldest uncles. We just said we're all dead to each other. And that way, it made it easier.
Was it an intervention? They were trying to convince you not to do something crazy and convert?
Oh, no. Here's how they found out that I actually converted. I wasn't even
told them.
No, I did not tell anyone.
Converted, you hadn't told your family. You were living a secret life as a Jew, essentially.
Yeah, I told myself, okay, din anus, you can do whatever you want. You practice at home. Your whole heart is into this. So don't worry about it. Just do it and live your life, and you know.
So you're still a crypto Jew in Israel, in Judea.
Yeah, something like that.
So what happened?
And here's what happened. One day I went to Shacharit. I always go to these Shacharits, right? And that day I think I didn't sleep well, because when I went and I came back, I just collapsed. And when I woke up, I went to the grocery store. And I forgot there's a kippah on my head and tzitzit on the sides. So I just went to a grocery store in the middle of like an Arab area where there are no Jews whatsoever. And everyone's just staring. They froze. They know me. Of course they know me.
And they're like, what happened to him?
And I didn't understand why. So I keep on walking. I'm going home. Right before I enter my house, there's a car. And I'm seeing my reflection. And I'm seeing my tzitzit flying back and forth, swinging. And I'm like, no.
So then that's when your brother and your uncle confronted you, because they'd heard about this.
They confronted me sometime after, yeah.
So you clearly have had all of this curiosity from a young age, right? And at some point you realized, I don't want to be part of extremism. I don't want to be part of Hamas ideology. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't think it's just Hamas's ideology. I think Hamas's ideology is an Islamic ideology. It's shared among Muslim Brotherhood, Boko Haram, all of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just Hamas. When 9/11 happened, they dressed me up as Bin Laden because I was so tall and lanky, and they started calling me Bin Laden. That was my cosplay at school.
My God.
Yeah. I felt at one point where it's like, I'm either going to end up in prison one day, dead, or I can just cancel everything that I am and start over and be something else. And I knew it was going to be very difficult. I did not intend to become a Jew. I think it was a destined accident. I wanted to leave Israel when I was 17. I didn't want to be here anymore. I traveled the world, and I think most Arabs don't really see extremism as extremism.
It's normalized completely.
It's completely normalized. For example, if you see an extremist, you're not going to report him. Even if you're not going to go and help him, I mean, by not reporting him, you're kind of helping.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what's happening in Gaza right now?
It's definitely happening in Gaza right now with the hostages, because we saw that recent clip of that academic guy screaming his heart out or whatever, and then he said, we could have prevented this, and then someone shut his mouth and he grabbed him and stuff. I know Arabic, and I know these psychological things when people speak, you know what I mean?
And
they
the
know
social
where they
pressure
are.
also, because if you report them, they'll come after you. It's
Exactly.
a mafia.
Yes.
I think that's what people
Worse
don't
than mafia.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mafia that's well-financed, well-organized, that has billions of dollars at its own hands to commit terrorist crimes.
Right.
Do you have any community left and from where you were brought up? So your family have disowned you?
They've disowned me. I disowned them as well. It's mutual. I never really
You're
had...
living in Jaffa still.
Yeah.
So you are living in the community where you were raised as a nationalist Palestinian, essentially, and now you're living there as a Jew.
Yeah, we have Hamas flags in our neighborhood.
How does that work out for you? Do people shout out traitor and things like that?
No, they threw a grenade into my house a long time ago.
Oh my God.
It was a miracle. You know, I do have Ashgacha Ilana. I have it. It didn't go off.
Ashgacha Ilana is divine intervention.
So I know I do.
Somebody's protecting you up there.
Yeah. I've been shot at. I've been stabbed. I have stabbing scars on my hips.
Oh my God, Timur.
And every time by Palestinian
Arabs.
extremists.
No, Arabs.
Arabs.
Israeli Arabs. Arabs who live here in Israel.
And they think that you betrayed them. That's how they see you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. You've seen, of course, like we've all experienced the horrors of what happened on October 7th. You've seen the reaction of the world. What do you think about what's going on in the world right now from your perspective?
Well, it's not surprising. The world is always... I've been around for a long time. I've seen all of these wars, operations, all of this. I've been around for a long time. It's just copy-paste. It's the same exact thing every time. Maybe now we're seeing more because, you know, globalization, social media, it's easier to reach people. 10, 12 years ago, it wasn't the same as today. But I don't think it's going to change. You always have that weak side, which is like, that poor brown Palestinian Arab, look at him, he's so sad, he's this and that. And you have the Jew with the white, he's wearing a nice suit and tie. He got a good life for himself. Look at him, why does he have that? You know what I mean? Yeah. So they look at you and they automatically blame you for everything just because you're doing well.
Yeah.
Because...
So when you became a Jew, did you feel like people were resenting you, started to see you as a colonizer? Even though you're Palestinian, your family has been in Jaffa for a long time. So how did not just the community, but maybe people you're in conversation with in the West, how do they see you? What kind of comments do you get when you shatter all of these narratives just by being who you are?
Usually they hang up or block me as soon as they realize what I am. They're very uneducated about certain things. Very hypocritical. They know exactly what they are, where they come from, and how they would be treated if they did X, Y, and Z in public. Yeah. But they don't care. Listen, extremism, there's no such thing as a Jewish extremist, right? But like when people
What do you mean by that? I want to unpack that.
There's no symmetry between the two. A Jewish extremist is a guy who doesn't want to divorce his wife, and she hunts him down for 10 years. A Jewish extremist is left a whole. It's like a cult that has 100 members, or Neturei Karta, a cult that has like 5,000 members, sponsored by Iran. But it's like, in the Arab world, extremism, terrorism, not only it's subsidized, like it's incentivized. It's like, you're encouraged to do it.
The pay for slave, for example.
It's aspirational.
even in Israel, even among Israeli Arabs, and there's this Israeli Arab deception that most people ignore. But like I've been present, I've been to places where I wasn't supposed to be. Like I heard a local leader, a Muslim leader, was also a real estate agent. He's very famous, very influential and powerful. And he's just inciting people to go out and harm Jews. And he does.
This is in Israel.
In Israel, here in the center. And whenever people try to create this false equivalence of like Jewish extremism and Muslim, Arab, Palestinian, Islamist extremism, think about every time a Jewish person went out and did something in Hawar or whatever. It's always a reaction.
Of course.
You go, you kill their brother, you kill their son, you kill their nephew. Obviously, you're going to get a bunch of teenagers pissed, taking a bunch of bottles, and then they're just going to like, what?
Yeah.
Give you a flat tire. You know, they never hurt people.
And we have the American administration sanctioning some of these kids.
Yes.
Well, what's going to happen if you kill an Arab person's friend? How would they react? You know what I mean? Way worse.
Absolutely.
You know?
But they try and make, this is what we've been talking about. They're trying to make this equivalence to make us look worse and they look better.
Yeah, and one thing that Timur is raising that I think people miss is how even this like Israeli extremism that we have been seeing as emboldened and that Israeli society has been fighting against and protesting against has been a buildup, a reaction against Hamas extremism.
Timur, you have such a unique story. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. What would be your message from your perspective, which is so unique in this country? What's your message? What's your message to the world? What's your message to other Jews? Or what's your message to the Muslim community that you grew up in?
My message to the Jewish people, not to the world, but to the Jewish people around the world, I think it's time for us to really just hug each other out. I don't know if you remember, but when the Second Temple was destroyed, at one point, right before it was destroyed, there was a moment where they all knew it was going to happen. And they all came together and did a Kriyat Shema. So I feel like this is something that we should do now. I think we should come together, hug it out. I think we should love each other and be good to one another and understand that we only have each other. I always feel like there's this war outside of this war, and this war is between the Jews themselves. There are the Jews who live here, and then there are the Jews who live abroad. And the Jews who live abroad, there are so many things they don't understand about being here and living here. So they take this stance that's a bit complicated, and it's very hard to...
and harmful to the Jews.
And harmful to the Jews here as well.
Yeah.
So I think unity among us is what I would love to see.
Timur, what a great message, and we are blessed to have you in the tribe. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And now for our very favorite segment of our show, Scumbag of the Week. And to help us this week, we imported some talent. Chani Lisbon, comedian, all the way from the States. Thank you for flying in for the war.
My absolute pleasure. There's no better time to be here.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
I came on a comedy tour.
Oh my God.
It started out 2 weeks and then I just extended it another week because I don't want to go back.
Are you ever leaving?
I think I'm on my way to making Aliyah.
Oh my God.
Like in 2-month increments. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. You're easing your way into it. You have to, by the way.
You know what's going on in America, right? It's very bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's really funny because there's like people who come here, like Shama, you're the same.
That's
like you
also
come
me.
here to just
Yeah.
like see, to explore, to breathe a little, and they're like, we don't want to go back out there. No.
It's not safe out there. It's
Oh my
really
God.
not.
This is like incredible.
It's been such a gift to be here and like do shows all over the country and just like look people in the eye and be like, we love you. We're here for you.
God bless you, honey. Okay, so we're now, you know what Scumbags is about, honey?
Yes, I do.
Yes? And do you...
About my ex-boyfriend.
Oh, no.
No, that's
Honey, that's another show. I think we should do a show just on ex-boyfriends.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
I mean, I've been married for so long, I don't even...
really
Juicy.
That should be a show.
I was just
Somebody has stories.
I was grateful for the platform.
Yes.
So
all right, honey, we're going to pick not your ex-boyfriend
Got it.
scumbags, okay?
Got it.
But we will come back to that.
yeah.
So who's your scumbag this week?
My scumbag is Ilana Glazer.
Oh my God, another Jewish comedian, except that she's not funny.
She's not. I've never actually liked her.
No.
I know people really did, but I never actually liked her. I really loved Broad City. I
Yes,
have to
the
say.
show was
I
funny.
loved Broad City. Loved it. And then
I just have been seeing videos of her, and it's like a stab in the neshama. Yeah. Really, it's like, how dare you?
What is she doing? Tell us why she's such a scumbag.
She put out a reel like begging the president's wife, Jill Biden.
Yeah,
like Dr. Jill.
Yeah, Dr. Jill. Dr. Jill.
Dr. Jill, to speak on behalf of the women to her husband, on the behalf of the women in Gaza,
and say what?
And like stop this fighting. And it's like, what? Where were you?
What planet?
What are you talking about?
Dr. Jill Biden, we are calling on you.
We are mothers and daughters
and grandmothers,
sisters and advocates for peace and justice,
and simply human beings.
Dr. Biden, we are calling on you today
because we know you are all of those things as well.
And because of the immense power you hold as First Lady of the United States.
To implore you.
Please, Dr. Biden.
The world is watching.
Calling on you to use your impact, your moral clarity,
your voice to stop the suffering,
the intentional starvation,
the forced displacement,
the destruction,
the killing of Palestinian children,
and the decimation of an entire population of civilians.
We're calling on you to stop the unfolding genocide in Palestine.
We know you care.
We know the images of starving children must devastate you.
We're calling on you to use your power to call for a permanent ceasefire.
Like, as a Jew, sorry, can I say that as a
yes? We call you
as a Jew.
No, but like as a Jew, but like as a Jew, I'm watching this and I'm like, where were you on October 8th?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or now with the hostages?
But like, why are we not even mentioning that?
Yeah.
And just to get all
it came out of the blue.
But to get all these other women involved on her like little bandwagon of like, oh my God, I'm like, I almost started crying. I've seen her perform comedy. I don't want to like bag on her, but
that's the DBS you were mentioning.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So do you think it's the last name Glazer because it's another Jonathan Glazer situation?
No, do you think they're from the same family of capos? No. No.
I just like, I had smoke coming out of my ears when I was watching her video.
I just think...
And it got millions of views. And it's like, what? Your mother's, like, you're literally Jewish. What are you doing?
Because when
She's a good Jew.
When you really attack your own people, that goes viral. And they use it.
I know, but
they use it for their fame.
It was so upsetting to me.
As
my Shama was hurt. I was like, I liked you. And now I'm like, I've seen her in New York a couple of times, like literally just like walking down the street holding her baby, like whatever. I'm not stalking her or whatever. I do have binoculars, but it was more just like I ran into her, you know, and I don't know. I just like, how do you can't follow someone. Like, I don't want to hear what she has to say anymore.
No, I don't. Well, I've unfollowed so many of the people that I respected, admired, or loved as singers and actors, whatever. What can we do? But she is definitely a worthy scumbag. Emily, who's yours this week?
So many. It's so hard to choose. I'm overwhelmed by the plethora of scumbags. But this week I have Cenk, Uygur, the host of The Young Turks.
Didn't you go up against him on Piers Morgan?
Yeah. Wiped the floor with him.
You did? You schooled him.
So he's an idiot. But the reason he's an idiot today is because he was tweeting, I think it was yesterday, about how Israel has bombed so many people in Rafah, but it's not enough for them. So now they're trying to start a war with Lebanon. I think we have the tweet, actually. We'll show it. But this is ridiculous.
Like they haven't attacked us.
Yeah, there have been over 5,000 missiles and rockets and drones that have been fired into Israel at civilian cities, civilian towns and targets, some of them military as well, but there is no real differentiation when it comes to terrorist organizations. And that has been going on for 8 months. It wasn't Israel who decided to start bombing Lebanon. It was Hezbollah who started to bomb Israel after the October 7th massacre. And so to frame this intentionally in such an intellectually dishonest way is disgusting. And the thing is, like, I criticized him on social media and said, you know, maybe you should educate yourself before you open your big, fat, chauvinist mouth. But the thing is, I don't actually believe he doesn't know. I think he does know, and I think he is completely dishonest and argues in bad faith and is a total scumbag. So,
worthy scumbag, I think repeat offender perhaps, but thankfully we have you telling him where to go. Okay, Chama,
Speaking of dishonesty and bad faith, Emily, my scumbag of this week is Bella Hadid.
Oh, boo.
She shared this fantasy, like well-packaged story about one of the hostages that was brought back home last weekend in a miracle and difficult operation in which an Israeli soldier died. And she said that Almog was actually treated really well because Hamas even baked him a cake on his birthday, and they were not abusive. But the problem is that
they went to a spa for 8 months.
It's amazing how they can find a cake for a hostage, but there's also simultaneously a famine.
Yeah, good point.
That too. And she shares this to her millions of followers, obviously mass spreading misinformation, giving people even more reasons to deny brutal terrorism and to champion a terrorist organization recognized as such from 2014 and prior, not just by the West, but by the Arab world. I mean, how crazy is that? Why are people falling for these media stars, for these models, spreading misinformation and resharing their stories? And Bella, if you want to verify the story, why don't we host a birthday party for you in Gaza or in the West Bank?
Good idea. Let us show up in a bikini.
I'd go to that.
After that, maybe, well, if we can, if you're alive after, we can take you to Israel to have a real birthday party, and you can compare for yourself. You cannot speak about this place and what happened in a tunnel where you've never been to spread misinformation. That's not ethical.
I think ethics is the last thing from her mind, if she actually has a brain at all. But worthy scumbag, thank you very much. Now, my scumbag...
Look at me. I thought you were going to say me.
Hey? My scumbag is another as a Jew.
Oh.
We have a whole category of those. Like you, like your Ilana Glazer pick. Mine is Rachel Gelman. Now, who is Rachel Gelman, you may ask yourself? Well, Rachel Gelman is the lucky woman who belongs to the lucky sperm club of the Levi Strauss fortune. And she, of course, on the back of her ancestors coming with nothing to America and building themselves up from scratch and building one of the most successful companies in retail in the world, Levi Strauss, has taken some of that money that she inherited from her grandfather, who earned it from the boots, picking up himself by the boots, to give, to be one of the biggest donors to pro-Hamas college campus protests. And so I really don't know a lot about this woman, but all I know is shame on you. Nobody gave your ancestors any chances in life. They did it all by themselves, and they didn't get chances because they were Jewish. And what you're doing with their hard-earned money is you are fueling the fumes of anti-Semitism. And so I feel sorry for you, and I hope that one day when somebody says something nasty about you being a Jew, because you still are, you will come to your senses and understand what you've been doing. Shame on you. She's my scumbag of the week. Okay. We always breathe a sigh of relief after that. And now we always want to finish our wonderful program with a positive take on everything. And as many scumbags as there are also many, many heroes. And so heroes of the week. Emily, who's your hero this week?
So I saw last week there was a debate, Monk debates, with Douglas Murray, Natasha Hausdorff, and they were debating against Mehdi Hassan and Gidon Levy, who was a terrible anti-Israel, well, both of them are terrible anti-Israel voices. However, I think all four of them are respectable debaters when it comes to the issue. And the debate is anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. And my hero this week is actually, Douglas is always amazing, but is Natasha Hausdorff, because I think who we actually had on this show.
She's been a guest on our show. She's a good friend, and she's an incredible advocate.
Yeah. She just did a fabulous job breaking down the arguments, incredibly logical, well-spoken. really one of the people I think I respect the most intellectually on these issues. She really, really knows her stuff, and she just wiped the floor with them. I mean, she absolutely schooled them in this debate. Every second is worth watching. Both Douglas, but also Natasha, who really, for me, was the star of this debate.
Let me be clear. I do not blame the whole world for the venomous hatred that Israel is currently being subject to. I blame the opposition and the blood libels that they have peddled in this evening. Gideon began with a statement of his credentials. Perhaps I should do the same. I sit in front of you as the granddaughter of Palestinians. Living under the British, they had identity cards issued to them that identified them as Palestinians, nationals of the British Mandate. Think on that the next time you hear people trying to revise history. And we also saw it in that comment from Gideon, give it back, referring to the West Bank. It's the settlers, the settlers. That call for the West Bank or Judea and Samaria to be Jew-free, as so much of the rest of the Arab world, Judenrein. We've heard that before, ladies and gentlemen. We were told because Jews in the 20th century differed about whether the creation of the State of Israel was a good idea, that was a reason that Jews couldn't be anti-Semitic if they were anti-Zionist. Well, I urge you to consider a debate between parents, which might be entirely legitimate as to whether or not to have a child. There may be arguments for and against, reasonable ones. But once that child is born, to suggest that it should be gotten rid of would be murder.
A really kol hakavod to you, Natasha. You are absolutely my hero of the week. Keep up all the good work.
We love Natasha, and now she's actually joined social media. So everyone
finally
follow Natasha Hausdorff. Great hero. Thank you, Emily.
It goes to say that if you're willing to have a conversation, there's a lot of information that people can actually learn and engage with and be transformed by. And that is why the BDS movement and the Islamists and the radical progressives don't want anyone to have a conversation. Which brings me to my hero of the week, who is none other than Quentin Tarantino, who's been a hero of mine for many other reasons.
He lives in Tel Aviv.
Inglourious Basterds.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Every film he's done is amazing.
Every film has been exceptional. And he was in New York City this week when he was basically attacked in a restaurant and called a dirty Zionist and all kinds of insults and intimidations to get him to say something about Palestine and Palestinians.
Quentin Tarantino! Hey, I'm sorry. Say free Palestine! Why are you a Zionist piece of shit? Hey, Quentin! Why are you a Zionist piece of shit? Going to Israel? Quentin Tarantino! Hey, I'm sorry, man. Quentin Tarantino! You got fans!
Obviously, as someone who lives here in Israel, who's been living here, who's married to an Israeli, who's been experiencing this place in real time, has a lot to say about Middle Eastern politics. But he very gracefully did not engage, did not dignify that moment at all, and these people who were screaming at him, including this social media person. I also don't want to dignify this person. No, I'm not going to share the name, but she is just insane, like clearly on crack. Her brand name literally says crack something, and it's like, why are these people
given any
platform? And I think that's the deeper meditation that people need to have. Is why are these crazy people going out after our cultural icons and heroes like Tarantino? People who have been thinking about anti-Semitism from really creative, interesting angles and have produced really beautiful, moving work to almost kind of present them as the scapegoats, the sacrifice, the offering, right?
I just want to add also, it's not just anti-Semitism. I mean, a lot of these cultural icons like Tarantino and other people who have done amazing work in Hollywood are doing things against racism. They're doing things to promote minorities, promote women, LGBTQ.
A lot of his movies have been addressing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not just him, but many.
Yeah, so she was trying to basically get him canceled, which is the strategy. And again, it goes to say, like, I'm so positive that if you'd reach out to Quentin Tarantino and say, I want to have a conversation, he would actually sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, that's all they want. That's not what they want. That's not what they're after. Well, worthy hero indeed. He lives in Tel Aviv. I've actually seen him around. Super down-to-earth guy, you know, going about his life in Tel Aviv.
I might have a film pitch for you, Quentin.
Let's bring him on the show.
Let's bring him on the show.
That would be great.
Okay, Hani, who's your hero?
My hero is Rachel from Afakim, Rachel Edry. Edry. She is the woman who was held hostage in her home for 15 hours.
Rachel. Sorry. The grandma who makes the cookies?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you met her?
I met her yesterday in her house.
Tell us all about her.
I went to visit her. Unfortunately, I got store-bought cookies from her.
Oh.
I was looking forward to homemade.
Well, I mean, you're not a terrorist.
No, I'm not. But she saves that to, you know. She gave me a regular cookie, and I was offended. I was like, do I need a gun to get a homemade cookie? It was fine, the cookie, I guess, but I just feel like she's a hero. These people, she were
incredible.
Literally holding a gun to her husband's head the entire time, and she's making them laugh, making them cookies, entertaining them, distracting them, and she knew exactly what she was doing.
She's also Persian.
No, she's Moroccan. She's Moroccan, yeah.
Oh, are we fighting here? Iranian? Maybe she's half, and that's where the cookie talent comes from.
Moroccan. Yeah, and it's like such a classic Moroccan strategy. So you want to win anything, and you've gone into any Moroccan house.
Yeah.
Let's just feed you to death.
No, but literally.
Feed you to death.
Exactly. For 15 hours, she kept them entertained.
And got herself together. Imagine that.
I mean, an hour. I can't even bake a cookie without gunmen in my house. You know what I mean? I just have a hard time.
Like cook what?
You know what I mean?
But like order Woltz. That would be me.
To do that under pressure.
What? They don't deliver now?
No, it's like, how much sugar? You know, it's like.
Yeah, and because she's Moroccan, she actually spoke to them in Arabic. So that gave her.
She's an icon.
No, she's an icon.
She's an icon.
There's a company called Jeruz that started making sweatshirts that say Rachel from Afakim, and there's a picture of her holding a tray of cookies.
Oh my God.
And they're going to send her them so she can wear a sweatshirt.
It's a real thing.
Well, she deserves it. If anybody deserves it, that was really, like you said, it's the Moroccan woman manipulation with food. It worked against Hamas too. It's incredible. Yes, now you know all my secrets. Okay, so my hero, another following on from Sharma's Quentin Tarantino, mine is Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas, of course, Kirk Douglas, the Holocaust survivor, Jewish dad, has always grown up identified as a Jew. He's got kids at the moment in college, and he came here with his entire family. And of course, you know, did press visit to the hostages, did everything that he needed to do. But what was very interesting to me is that when he was interviewed by Israeli press, he spoke about the fact that his kids are being discriminated for being Jewish in college, and they have to hide their signs of being Jewish. And he's here not just as a Jew, but as a concerned father with the anti-Semitism going on, and of course to stand with Israel. Michael Douglas has always been a champ about Israel things. I think he's also a terrific actor. He's a terrific actor, but he's always used his fame for good. And he also spoke about his disappointment. He used to be a goodwill ambassador for the UN, and he's so disappointed at the hypocrisy.
They don't have any goodwill.
Nothing, no goodwill. He called out the Red Cross. He really actually understands exactly what's going on. Stood up here, showed up as a Jew, concerned father. And so we really love Michael Douglas. Thank you for being a hero this week. And on that note, ladies, we close off the week with the prayer that we close off every week. And of course, last week, part of our prayers were answered when our 4 hostages came home. And we pray that all of them will be home by next week. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching.